2 weeks ago, I welcomed my first child, a beautiful daughter. My husband and I chose to name her after my late grandmother, who played a significant role in my life before passing away last year. We named our daughter Alina, inspired by my grandma Ella, a choice that holds deep meaning for me. My mother-in-law, Barbara, had been dropping hints throughout my pregnancy that we should name the baby after her. She has no daughters, only 2 sons, including my husband, and she frequently mentioned a family tradition where her mother named all her daughters after their grandmothers. We never committed to this idea. In fact, my husband and I had decided months earlier to honor my grandmother, and kept the name a secret until our daughter's birth to avoid external pressure or opinions. When Barbara visited us in the hospital the day after I gave birth, we introduced her to baby Alina. Initially, she murmured a soft "oh" in a disappointed tone and fell silent. We anticipated she might feel a bit let down, but we were unprepared for what followed. After a brief pause, Barbara began questioning why we hadn't chosen her name for either the first or middle name. My husband calmly explained that we had settled on Alina months ago to honor my grandmother. That's when Barbara's demeanor shifted dramatically. Her voice grew loud as she accused us of promising to name the baby after her, which was entirely untrue. She had simply assumed we would follow her wishes without our agreement. I gently explained that while I understood her desire, we had made no such promise and were sorry for her disappointment. But the name was our decision as parents. That's when Barbara completely lost control. She began shouting that I had robbed her of her only chance to have her name carried on and had disrespected her in the worst way. It was terrifying. This happened in the hospital recovery room while I was holding my newborn. My husband and a nurse tried to calm her, but Barbara was inconsolable. She screamed that I had deliberately hurt her, that I owed her for all she'd done for us, and that my grandmother wasn't even alive to see the honor. A deeply hurtful remark. My husband firmly told her to stop and leave if she couldn't compose herself. Instead, she moved toward me aggressively, as if to confront me or reach for the baby. I'm still not sure. I instinctively turned to protect Alina. The nurse, who had been nearby, called hospital security. Everything escalated quickly. 2 security officers rushed in and restrained Barbara, pulling her away as she continued yelling at us. They escorted her out of the maternity ward, and I later learned from a nurse that she was removed from the hospital entirely because she kept shouting in the hallways. I was trembling and crying, and Alina was wailing from the commotion. My husband initially followed the officers but returned soon after to comfort me once Barbara was gone. It was a traumatic and humiliating ordeal. Since returning home, I've been overwhelmed with calls and messages from my husband's family. Barbara has been telling everyone that I intentionally snubbed her and broke a family tradition, claiming I caused her to have a breakdown at the hospital by being cruel. Some relatives, like an aunt and a few cousins, suggested we should have used Barbara's name as a middle name to avoid conflict, or that we should have let her outburst slide because she was emotional. My husband and I are both furious and shaken by the incident. He's been fully supportive, just as outraged at his mother's behavior, but some family members seem to think we provoked this by not giving in to Barbara's wishes. I'm starting to question whether we made a mistake by not compromising to avoid this chaos. We only wanted to honor my grandmother, who meant so much to me. Barbara's name is also quite dated, and we didn't love it, but that wasn't the main issue. She assumed our daughter would carry her name without our consent. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for naming my daughter after my grandmother instead of my mill? Comment 1, not the asshole, NTA. It's your baby, your choice. Barbara sounds unhinged, no offense. She had no right to expect you to name your child after her. The fact that she caused such a scene that security had to intervene is wild. Are you and the baby okay? That must have been so stressful right after giving birth. Op reply. It was incredibly stressful, not at all how I imagined my first day with my newborn. We're okay now, just rattled. Alina was crying from the noise but settled once things calmed down. I'm recovering physically from the birth, but emotionally I'm still shaken. My husband and I believe it's our right to name our child. We never promised Barbara anything. I'm shocked she reacted so intensely. We knew she'd be upset, but not like that. Comment 2, NTA, did your husband support you during this? How's he coping? Op reply, my husband has been incredible. He stood by me at the hospital, telling his mom to leave when she started yelling. He was as shocked and horrified as I was. He followed her briefly when security escorted her out, but she was too hysterical to reason with, so he came back to me. At home, he's been handling most of the family calls, making it clear we made the name decision together, and that his mother's actions were unacceptable. He's devastated that she ruined what should have been a joyful day. He's angry and embarrassed, but focused on ensuring Alina and I are okay. We're both stunned by her behavior. Update 1. Thank you all for the overwhelming support and validation. The consensus that we're not the assholes has really helped me feel confident in our decision. It's been a wild week since my original post. I couldn't respond to everyone, but I read as many comments as I could and replied where possible. A lot has happened. The day after my post, Barbara sent me a text that was more of a non-apology. She said she was sorry for getting so upset at the hospital, but immediately justified it, claiming she was blindsided by us breaking her family tradition. She wrote that she'd dreamed of a granddaughter named after her for years and overreacted because she was heartbroken. She didn't acknowledge her actions were wrong or apologize for scaring us. Instead, she said, "I hope you understand why I was so upset, and I forgive you for how you treated me when I was in distress." Yes, she forgave us. That felt manipulative and insincere. I didn't respond, and neither did my husband. We decided to cut direct contact with Barbara for now. We informed my father-in-law, Phil Richard, that she's not welcome at our home or near us and Alina until further notice. Richard wasn't at the hospital during the incident. He was away for work but heard about it from my husband later. He called, sounding mortified and apologetic on Barbara's behalf, but he also urged my husband to be understanding, saying she was just emotional. We told him her behavior was unacceptable. Here's the chilling part. I learned what Barbara was yelling as security removed her. At the time, it was chaotic and I only caught fragments. My husband didn't tell me right away to avoid stressing me further while I was postpartum, but this week he shared the full story. As the guards pulled her away, she was screaming threats at me, saying things like, "That woman will pay for this, and you'll regret crossing me." She also yelled, "You can't keep my granddaughter from me. I'll make sure you suffer." I was horrified when he told me. He'd held off because he feared it would overwhelm me in the hospital, and I'm grateful he waited, but it's still terrifying. She essentially vowed to punish me for not naming the baby after her. I don't know exactly what she meant by suffer, but the threats were clear. My husband was furious retelling it and confronted Barbara over the phone about her words. She didn't deny them, instead shouting that I deserved pain for disrespecting her and that there are consequences. He ended the call before it escalated further. We've cut all contact with Barbara and told Richard we won't see or speak to her unless significant changes happen, though I'm not sure what those would be. My husband is exploring legal options in case she acts on her threats. We're documenting everything, saving her texts, recording details of the hospital incident while it's fresh. We haven't involved the police yet, as she hasn't contacted us again beyond that text, but her threats make us cautious. Richard knows what she said and is trying to mediate, insisting she didn't mean it and was just emotional. I told him that, men or not, I consider it a threat and must protect my baby and myself. He said he understood but mentioned Barbara is a mess, crying about being kept from her granddaughter. That's on her for her actions. For now, we're maintaining no contact and keeping our home secure. We also asked the hospital to bar Barbara from visiting in case she tried to return during our remaining days there. We're considering consulting a lawyer to ensure she doesn't cause more trouble. It's heartbreaking it's come to this. I'll update if there are major developments, but for now, we're safe and focused on Alina. Thank you for the support, it's helped us stand firm. Comment 1, I'm so sorry you're going through this. Documenting everything and considering legal action is smart. A restraining order might be wise given her threats. Even if she doesn't get physical, threats to involve authorities or take the baby aren't uncommon in these situations. Don't wait for her to escalate further. How's the rest of the family reacting now that this has intensified? Are they still defending her or starting to see she's wrong? Reply. It's mixed. The relatives who initially suggested using Barbara's name as a middle name to keep peace have quieted down since hearing more about the hospital incident. Once they learned security escorted her out, many realized how serious it was. We haven't shared the threats widely to avoid more drama, but my husband told his brother and father. His brother fully supports us and thinks Barbara needs help. Richard is protective of her but embarrassed. He stopped defending her hospital behavior and admits she was out of line, but he downplays the threats, saying she was just upset. He's in a tough spot. Update 2, about a month later we took legal action. With a lawyer's help, we secured a 1-year restraining order against Barbara, the maximum allowed. It prohibits her from contacting us or coming near me, my husband, or Alina. The judge granted it easily given the hospital incident. Barbara was served 2 weeks ago and per Richard was furious, ranting that we betrayed her and that her son was treating her like a criminal. We expected that reaction. The order is working, she hasn't contacted us since. Richard visits weekly to see Alina alone, and we've made it clear he can't share information with Barbara. He's respected this so far. However, he keeps gently suggesting we forgive Barbara or that she's learned her lesson. We shut that down, stating we're not ready and may never be, and pushing us risks our relationship with him. He backs off but is clearly torn. I feel for him. He's been married to Barbara for 35 years and is caught in the middle. He insists she's not a bad person, just emotional, and this was out of character. We've reiterated that her actions were inexcusable and our priority is protecting Alina. He understands even if he doesn't like it. Life at home is calmer. Alina is thriving, and I'm finally enjoying motherhood without constant drama. We don't know what Barbara is up to. Richard rarely mentions her, and we don't ask. A family member said she's devastated about missing Alina, but she hasn't sincerely apologized or sought help. We'll keep our distance and enforce the restraining order. When the year ends, we'll reassess based on her behavior, but if she remains a threat, we'll seek to extend it. For now, the order gives us peace, no surprise visits or harassment. Thank you for the support and advice. Comment 1. Great job getting the restraining order. It sends a clear message that her behavior was unacceptable. It's good Richard is respecting it, but him pushing reconciliation isn't okay. Forgive and forget doesn't apply when someone threatens your child. Has Barbara shown any signs of change, like therapy or a real apology? If not, Richard's just hoping. Stay vigilant, people like her sometimes behave temporarily then act out again. Op reply, you're right. Forgive and forget doesn't work here. As far as we know, Barbara hasn't sought help or therapy. If she has, Richard hasn't mentioned it, and I think he would. We've had no real apology, just that self-centered text. Richard's stance is based on wanting normalcy, not any change from Barbara. We're staying cautious, knowing calm doesn't mean safe. If she does anything, we're ready to involve the police. I hope she reflects, but I'm not optimistic. Comment 2, Richard's in denial. It's tough for him after decades of marriage, but he knows what she did and thinks an apology can fix it. I hope he's not sharing info about you or the baby. You said he's not supposed to, but do you trust him? He might slip up or share updates to cheer her up. Op reply, that's a valid concern. We told Richard clearly not to share anything about us or Alina, no photos, no updates. He agreed. Do I fully trust him? I'm a bit worried he might think a small update is harmless. My husband stressed that even a minor slip could cause issues. We haven't heard of anything leaking, and Richard knows breaking our trust could end his visits. He loves Alina and wants to see her, so I think he's careful. Fingers crossed. Update 3. I hoped I wouldn't need another update, but things escalated. After 4 months of quiet, with the restraining order keeping Barbara away, she violated it dramatically. A few nights ago at dusk, we heard loud banging on our front door and Barbara screaming, "Let me see my granddaughter. You can't keep her from me." My husband looked out and confirmed it was her. He told me to take Alina and hide, so I grabbed her and my phone, locked us in the nursery, and called 911. I could hear Barbara yelling that we had no right to keep her granddaughter away while I tried to keep Alina calm and spoke to the dispatcher, terrified she might break in. Then I heard glass shatter. She'd thrown rocks from our yard at the house, cracking the front door's glass panel. My husband shouted that the police were coming, but she screamed she didn't care. The police arrived quickly. When Barbara saw their lights, she reportedly switched from rage to pleading. By the time I left the nursery, officers had her in handcuffs on our lawn, alternating between sobbing and yelling about her granddaughter. It was surreal seeing her arrested. They took our statements, documented the damage, and confirmed she'd be charged with violating the restraining order and vandalism, as they had the order on file. We spent that night cleaning up glass and trying to calm down. We barely slept. The next day, Richard visited, looking devastated. He apologized profusely, saying he was wrong to downplay Barbara's behavior and never imagined she'd do this. He hadn't known her plans, only said she was going for a drive. He learned of the arrest when she called from jail. He made no excuses this time, saying he's ashamed and at his wit's end. My husband told him we're sorry he's going through this but must protect Alina. They hugged, both emotional. It's heartbreaking to see the family torn apart. Barbara is out on bail. We're pressing charges for the violation and vandalism and will cooperate with authorities, with no plans to be lenient. Given her clear violation, extending or making the order permanent should be straightforward. Richard has been supportive, even helping board up the door. It's sad it took this for him to fully see the reality. I'll update after the legal process concludes, hoping for closure. Comment. With Richard finally understanding how's he holding up, it must be tough realizing his wife isn't who he thought. Has he mentioned plans regarding Barbara? Is he staying with her? Op reply. Richard's struggling, angry at Barbara and guilty, wondering if he enabled her over the years. He hasn't shared much about his plans, but said he told her to get help or he can't see a future together. They're still in the same house but barely speaking. It might lead to separation if she doesn't change. He said, I can't believe the woman I love did this. I don't know how to face her. It's heavy, but we're letting him handle it and making clear we don't blame him. He's got family support too. Final update, the legal process concluded last week. Barbara pleaded guilty to violating the restraining order and vandalism, avoiding a trial. The judge sentenced her to 100 hours of community service, a large fine, and a year of probation with mandatory anger management counseling. There's no jail time, likely due to it being her first offense and the plea deal, but the restraining order remains and can be extended. She didn't contest anything in court and hasn't contacted us since that night. In family news, Richard has separated from Barbara. He asked her to leave their home, and they're taking a break after 35 years. She's staying with her sister. Richard's firm on needing space and unsure if he can forgive her. It's sad, but we understand his choice. Alina is healthy and unaware of the drama. We're relieved this is closing. We've added home security, but hope Barbara complies with the law. Richard visits regularly and remains supportive. We're grateful to maintain that bond. Thank you all for the support. It's helped us move forward and focus on raising Alina in peace. So, what are your thoughts on this story? Do you agree with what happened, or do you see it differently? Let us know your opinion in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of our upcoming stories. See you in the next one.